right, we'll do our little presentation, I guess, since Joe is here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Whenever Eric tells me to go, I will go. And do I press the arrow?
Oh, he gave you
This
a
one here?
thumbs up.
Yep.
Your dance.
Okay. Thank you. So we are here for our budget forum. We have only one person from the community in the audience. Thank you for coming. Well, we're going to go through the quick presentation in case anyone is plans to watch remotely. So we always start with our mission. I think we'll pass right by this because Joe has seen this many, many times. And our outcomes. And I just did a list of all the opportunities that people have to provide input in the budget process. All the meetings that have preceded this one in the fall, the budget forum and meeting here tonight, and then there are 2 more meetings in December, 2 in January, and then you can also always give your comments and questions at the annual meeting. We encourage everyone to participate early rather than later. It's easier for us to incorporate ideas from the community. The earlier we get them, the further we march along the budget process, the harder it is for us to make those kinds of adjustments. And all of our budget materials get posted to the CCS website, and you can contact the school board by emailing us as a group. So our budget history, our budget was higher last year than the year before, but it was still lower than some previous year's budgets. We don't have the numbers yet for, we will be getting numbers that will help us figure out what direction we're going in for this year, but that's just sort of a historical perspective of what the numbers have looked like since 2008. And this enrollment slide is the same one as last year. I think what happens is we sort of will level out. I think the projection is around 366 students for a number of years, starting sometime in the 2020s. So when we're looking at long-term enrollment, it's sort of figuring a school of about that size in the not-too-distant future. So the budget drivers. We always like to remind everyone in the community that there's things that we have local control over, and they have varying degrees of impact on the budget. So we have a lot of control over transportation, technology, O&M, and local administration, and those all have a high impact on the budget. We also have local control over insurance and utilities, but those have a low impact. And it's the same, that we have less control over, I'm sorry, did I just do that right?
Not quite.
No, I did it the wrong way. So we have high control over the top items, so over staffing, class size, curriculum, transportation, technology, O&M, and local administration. We have less local control as we go down there, and certain things we have very low local control over special ed, and that has a very high impact on the budget.
You did it well.
Okay. So when we're thinking about the budget process, we want to think about how we can fashion a budget that meets all of our mission statement and our ends and outcomes, but also is the most cost effective that we can possibly put together. Being mindful that property tax is a real burden for many members of our community. So what I was hoping to do tonight was to sort of ask the community what our priorities are. So I did a list of things that might be priorities for some people, that we're looking for best possible instruction for students, that we want a safe and welcoming facility. Some people might think that the biggest priority is to have strong leadership, to promote 21st century or science, technology, math skills. Is a priority to have better community engagement, the lowest possible property taxes, or some innovative new thing, robotics, some other program that people might think this is exactly what we need for our Sherlock kids. So I was going to open it up to ask our community, what do you think? What do you think should be our priorities when we're looking at how to put together our budget. I'm not gonna put you on the spot, Joe, but if you want, if you want to,
Right.
say anything here, you certainly can. And that's about it. So you should consider staying for our budget meeting, which is immediately following. And hopefully if people are watching out there, we certainly welcome hearing ideas from the community about priorities and things that they think will help us provide our kids the best possible education. All right. Okay. So Joe, I don't know if you want to say anything or if you want to wait until the budget presentation.
I can
You're
wait.
welcome to participate at any time. All right, and did we say that we can just go right into the budget?
Yep,
Because it's all part of
I'll
one
pick
thing?
right up with the material that the three of us have worked on in preparation for the start of your budget process. The first is, there's a budget buddy packet. When budgies are identified, this is a packet of material that over the last 3 or 4 years has been found to be helpful to have budget buddies understand the overall budget process you're working on. I encourage board members to go through it as well, because they might find stuff in there that helps clarify the process for them as well as the buddy they have next to them. So we won't spend time on that. I just wanted to point that out. The key element of tonight's meeting is to share with you the baseline budget, the basis with which it was prepared, and review CSSU assessments. So I'll start with the baseline budget. There's a 2-page baseline budget in your hands. It's a function summary and an object summary. It's the same budget carved up 2 different directions, one by functional area and the other by type of cost incurred. Both have the same total in the lower right. You're starting the process with a baseline budget of $7,600,608, or a 3.35% increase from the prior year. The baseline budget is built using the following methodology. Greg, Audrey, and I start with the service plan for special ed, and use that as part of the baseline. So Connie would have spent, and her staff would have spent time in the June through September timeframe defining exactly what services were going to be likely to be needed to be delivered to meet the obligations the school has in special ed. That service plan is forwarded to the state on October 15th. And then we use it as part of the baseline process. So some of the changes in here are from changes either plus or minus to the service plan based on actual kids being served. The other part of the budget comes from operating assumptions. The board discussed in both September and October and approved in October a set of operating assumptions to build the baseline. These are in essence guidance to Mike, Cindy, and Bob on how to prepare a document for you to begin the process based on a certain well-defined set of assumptions. So I've listed those on 2 pages. Our purpose tonight is to not critique these and change them because they've already been used for the purpose they were intended. They built this budget. But I just wanted you to all remember on how those 2 come together. So I think at this point, Greg, Audrey, and I will open it up for any questions one has. Just quickly looking at the baseline documents and wondering if you've got any questions on any of the numbers or what we've presented so far. This would be a great time to entertain them.
So I guess my one question is, does the baseline budget include staffing at the same levels as current? Or does it already wrap in when we were talking about class size presentation last year?
It is the staffing as of October 1st,
Okay.
with any open positions, with salary and benefits rolled forward for 1 year.
Okay.
So it doesn't include any new positions, and in your case, I'll leave it at that. You didn't have any other
So it's
changes.
the staffing now, not the staffing per the recommendations of the configuration committee?
Correctamundo.
Okay.
The configuration committee.
Okay? Yep, yep,
Thank
yep.
you.
There's a minor exception to that, and that's people who were hired, paraeducators who were hired after, yes, so they're not in the baseline. The kindergarten paras are not in the baseline because that was considered a one-year decision.
Okay,
So that's current staffing now, that's not included in the baseline.
okay.
Are there any others besides that para?
I actually think that's it. There's
Okay.
a 0.77% people.
That's
Yep.
it.
Okay. Any questions on those 2 pages? We'll be able to come back to them again at any subsequent meeting of the board. So this won't be the last time we circle around those 2 sheets of paper. The next segment on your agenda is for me to spend a little time on SU assessments so you understand what that portion of your budget is going to look like. As a matter of understanding, the SU budget is in the process of working their budget for 14-15. So what I'm sharing with you today is somewhat of a work in process. This is the baseline budget that board is working on. They meet again tomorrow night to go into a bit of detail on purchase services. So coming out of their work will likely be some changes to this budget, but nonetheless, I wanted you to have the same level of understanding that they do. The first page is the function summary for the 2015 Chittenden South Supervisory Union proposed budget. It totals $7,606,000 for calendar year 14-15. And the changes that are incorporated into here on the core services, it's salary and benefits on the same staff. So that's part of the budget assumptions. You'll see on core services, though, there's a significant increase in SU board expense. It's up 232% year to year. That's because this year you were required by law to record all expenses associated with fiscal audits at the SU. So prior years, we didn't record the $48,000 in audits that are spread out amongst the schools. This year, they're recorded on this budget, paid at the SU, and then assessed back to the school they're in support of. So that's the reason for the big increase up there. Purchase services are the second half of the budget. Again, we incorporate salary and benefit increases per the budget assumption sheet. We also change these based on our knowledge of services that have changed needed in support of any of our schools. So for example, the best 2 examples I have of that, the psychological services line and occupational therapy lines are in essence tabulated by adding up the totals within each of our service plans for those sorts of services, building that into this budget, and then allocating it back to schools. So that's how the budget is built within purchase services, by and large. Okay, that's the total budget. What's more interesting to Charlotte might be the costs that you're going to see locally. That's the next page. These are the assessments that are coming back to Charlotte if the baseline budget remains unchanged from year to year. So you can see down at the total, last year's total of assessments was $494,000. 494 for the current year. Next year is anticipated to be $528,000, and I'm willing to entertain any questions you might have on those assessments. Hearing none, let me, go
Just
ahead.
can you remind us of the CY? I know it was at the CSSU meeting,
Okay.
but this is a big increase.
Yeah, the CY assessment is up well over 50% from the prior year. The CSSU board has elected to change the way expenses, revenues are recorded for CY and how they're then allocated to member schools. This year, we're recording all expenses and revenue of the program on the financial statement, and assessing back to member schools based on the services that they're asking for in each school. So for example, the mentoring program is within the SUCY budget, and the mentoring program is very different in scope and reach in each of our K-8 schools, with Williston and Heinsberg having significantly more program breadth than some other schools. They'll pay more for that if that's the only thing going forward. So we build this based on the resources that are in each school or the programs that are available in each school and then allocate it back. What it in essence says is Charlotte in prior years has been getting quite a deal based on that view of how to allocate assessments. And we've brought that into line with this new assessment methodology. So that's the commentary on CY. Did that answer your question?
It does, and just I'm wondering from Greg and Audrey if these are, I just think when people look at, it's too bad we don't have our full board here tonight, and it's too bad we don't have other people in the community, but I think looking at that, boy, people used to complain about paying $7,500 for CY, and now it's almost $32,000. I just want to know if the administration thinks that's something we should be sticking with. Should we be getting all of the services that it's not like we're paying for, not really a la carte, but is that something we should continue to invest in?
We'll continue to explore next year some options, but not for this particular year, as far as some other options for the SAP model that we're using.
Okay, and how about the mentoring part of that?
We'll probably look at both pieces and to see if we could use something different, but I'm hopefully next year to look more at the SAP model and how we're delivering services for that piece. But we could also look at that too.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if Megan was here, she'd say ditto. Megan's view of things is this is the right way to allocate and structure CY for this current year. She would make sure you all understand that there's both a discussion going on locally about exactly what we need to be doing in this arena longer term and how it relates to what's on the ground in Charlotte. And then Megan is also part of a coordinated school health effort obligated by the state to bring everything together in schools that might be under that banner. That's a little longer term view of things, but that too will touch on CY and services and all that as well. But neither of those efforts, the conversation hasn't moved forward in either of those enough that it's going to change what we're recommending for 14-15. Lastly, if Kristen, I'm not the best judge of angst within the community over that line. If there is sufficient angst, by all means you can give Elaine or I a signal that you'd like to have Christine or Megan here to do the presentation more justice than I personally can. And that we could certainly line that up.
Do you have any questions, Mark?
No, not on this piece.
Joe, do you have any questions?
Not at this point.
Okay. All right.
That's it for our formal presentation this evening.
I sort of thought we were getting more tonight. I don't know why I thought that, but
Well,
all right, here we are.
oh.
Any director's comments, 6.0?
I have no director's comments.
And 7.0, confirm next meeting dates. Our next budget meeting is here at 6:30, December 3rd. Another one, December 17th, also here at 6:30. Budget meeting January 7th at 6:30 here. January 14th at 6 o'clock here. And CSSU board meetings, the 18th of December, November 20th, which is tomorrow, both at 5:30 at CSSU. And
Board chairs was this morning.
board chairs was this morning. We don't even need to move to adjourn since we never really convened, since we don't have a quorum. And that's it.